You wake up. You choose coffee over tea. But that choice was written before you were born, by your genes, your habits, your yesterday. It's an unsettling thought that the person deciding your life might not be deciding anything, just running a program set in motion long ago. Picture one domino. Nothing mysterious. It falls because something pushed it. Your first breath was that push. Everything since has just been falling. Physicists call it the chain of cause and effect. Every event, without exception, is the fixed result of the event that came directly before it. In 1796, mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace imagined a demon who knew every atom's position. It could predict your entire future exactly. If that demon existed, your next thought, your next word, your last heartbeat, already calculated. Not guessed, calculated. Like a sum. That's the unsettling part. Not that fate exists in some mystical sense. That ordinary physics might already know how your story ends. Now, zoom into your skull. In 1983, a neuroscientist ran an experiment that made this personal, not just cosmic. Benjamin Libet asked people to flick their wrist whenever they felt like it, while he watched their brain activity on a screen. The brain signal to move appeared first. The person's conscious sense of deciding to move came nearly half a second later, after the fact. Half a second sounds small, but it means your brain had already picked the move before you, the conscious you, knew anything about it. Later studies pushed that gap even further. Some found brain patterns predicting a choice up to 10 seconds before the person felt they'd chosen. So, who's driving? The domino chain didn't stop at physics. It runs straight through the wet tissue you call your mind. 2 more dominoes just fell, and you didn't feel either one. Here's the second chain, the one you were handed at birth, with no vote. Identical twins raised in completely different households, different countries, different languages, still land eerily close on personality tests. Studies on separated twins found matching career choices, matching hobbies, even matching names given to their pets. Neither twin ever met the other. Genes don't hand you a script word for word, but they hand you a strong lean toward anxiety, toward risk, toward exactly the coffee you grabbed. You didn't pick that lean. It was shipped to you, sealed, before your first cry in the delivery room. Domino 3, the one hiding in your DNA. Now the third chain, the one that looks the most like you, but isn't yours either. Everything the world did to you before you could object. The language you think in, the accent underneath it. Neither was ever on the table for you to choose. Children raised around books tend to read for pleasure as adults. Children raised around conflict tend to read danger into rooms that hold none. None of that is judgment. It's just the fourth domino quietly falling through your childhood bedroom, years before you had opinions of your own. Stack the chains. Physics that moves atoms, genes you didn't request, a childhood you didn't design. Where exactly does your choice begin? Ancient thinkers already asked this, long before neuroscience had a word for readiness potential. The Stoics called it hemarmene, fate, the unbroken thread the universe weaves through everything, including every human decision. Their answer wasn't despair. It was this: you don't control the chain. You only control how you walk beside it. Centuries later, the philosopher Baruch Spinoza went further, colder. Free will, he argued, is just ignorance of the causes moving you. Spinoza compared it to a stone thrown through the air, believing, if it could think, that it chose to fly. That comparison stings because it's aimed directly at you, mid-flight, reading these very words right now. So 2 very different eras, physics and philosophy, keep landing on the same uncomfortable spot. Maybe there's an escape hatch. Maybe quantum physics, famously unpredictable at the smallest scale, leaves room for real freedom. Here's the twist inside the twist. Quantum randomness doesn't rescue free will. It just adds noise to a machine, not a choice to a person. A coin flip inside your neurons isn't you deciding anything. It's static, layered on top of the same falling dominoes. Randomness isn't freedom. Freedom would require something outside the chain entirely, and nothing we've measured has ever found that thing. So the escape hatch is bolted shut from the inside. Which raises the question this video keeps circling. If none of it was ever a choice, what happens to blame? Courtrooms run entirely on the opposite premise, that the person on trial could have chosen otherwise and simply chose wrong. Neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky spent decades studying stress, primates, and behavior before reaching an uncomfortable verdict of his own. In his book, Determined, Sapolsky argues there is no meaningful line between a brain tumor causing violence and an ordinary bad childhood doing it. Both are prior causes. Neither was chosen. The dominoes don't care whether the push came from biology or biography. If he's right, you deserved this, quietly becomes this chain of causes produced this outcome, a very different sentence to build a prison around. Some legal scholars now argue for sentencing built on prevention, not punishment, treating outcomes like weather, not moral failure. Others push back hard. Remove personal responsibility, and society loses its grip on the one lever it thought it had. Neither side has fully won. The domino chain doesn't pause to let the argument finish. Zoom back out to you, specifically, on an ordinary Tuesday. Every relationship you're in was shaped by people you met through chains of accident. A seat assignment, a delayed train, a shared elevator. Every fear you carry traces back to a moment your conscious self barely remembers, if it remembers it at all. Even the thought, "I don't believe in determinism," was itself produced by a brain following the same unbroken chain it's arguing against. That's the trap built into the whole debate. You can't step outside the chain to judge the chain. There is no outside. Some scientists point to chaos theory as a loophole. Tiny, unmeasurable differences producing wildly different outcomes down the line. But chaos isn't freedom either. It's just complexity so deep, no demon, however smart, could ever finish the math in time. Unpredictable is not the same as undetermined. The dominoes still fall in only one direction. We just can't see far enough ahead to call it. So where does that leave someone standing in their kitchen, deciding between coffee and tea, certain that decision feels like theirs? Here's where philosophy splits the debate into two very different camps. Hard determinists say free will is simply an illusion, full stop, and the feeling of choosing is just how the chain feels from the inside. Compatibilists, like philosopher Daniel Dennett, argue something sharper. Maybe freedom was never about escaping causation in the first place. Dennett's version of freedom, acting according to your own reasons, desires, and values, even if those were themselves caused by everything before them. Under that definition, a person coerced at gunpoint isn't free. A person choosing tea because they simply prefer tea still is, in the only sense that matters. It's a smaller kind of freedom than the one people imagine at first, but compatibilists argue it's the only kind that ever actually existed. The dominoes still fall, but under this view, being made of dominoes that reason, weigh, and prefer is itself a kind of freedom worth keeping. Not everyone finds that satisfying. It can feel like being handed a consolation prize instead of the freedom that was promised. But consider the alternative view seriously. Total, uncaused freedom would mean your choices trace back to nothing at all, not even to you. A decision caused by nothing isn't more yours. It's arguably less yours, just noise with your name attached to it. So, paradoxically, the chain of causes may be the very thing that makes your choices recognizably yours, instead of random static. This is close to where the Stoics landed 23 centuries ago, without a neuron scan in sight. They separated the world into two piles: things up to us, our judgments, our responses, and things not up to us, everything else. Fate decides the dominoes that fall toward you. You still decide how you meet the one landing on your doorstep right now. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, born a slave, insisted this distinction was the entire difference between a free mind and a chained one. His body could be owned. His judgments, he argued, belonged to something the chain of causes couldn't fully reach. Modern determinists would say even that response was itself determined, and Epictetus, to his credit, would probably agree completely.
It only takes a single push to set a massive chain in motion. Every element is connected, waiting for the perfect moment to land on its target and change everything forever. In a complex system, every detail connects. A single ripple can trigger an unstoppable chain of events, revealing the hidden thread of cause and effect.
Return to the coffee cup from Block 1. It was never a free choice in the old cosmic sense. Nothing ever was, for anyone. But it was still made by the specific chain of atoms, memories, and preferences the universe spent your entire life assembling into you. No one else in the history of matter has ever been assembled the exact same way. That configuration, reaching for coffee, that's still singular. Determinism doesn't erase you from the equation. It just relocates you, from author of the story to the specific shape the story takes. Some find that smaller. Others find it stranger and more intimate than the free will myth ever was. Because if nothing about you was chosen from nowhere, then everything about you was caused by something real. Not floating, not arbitrary. Your kindness has causes. Your stubbornness has causes. Trace them far enough and they lead somewhere, never to nothing. That reframes the domino from a threat into something closer to a fingerprint, the specific pattern only this chain running through you could make. It doesn't answer every hard question. Prisons, blame, and punishment still need real, difficult, ongoing answers. No metaphor settles alone. But it does answer the quieter question underneath this whole video: why life can feel like it was decided before you arrived. Because in the deepest physical sense, it was. Every domino before you was already falling before you took your first breath. What wasn't decided in advance was the exact shape you'd give the fall once it finally reached you, specifically today. That shape is still made of causes. It was never going to be made of nothing. Nothing never made anything, anywhere, ever. So the next time the day feels scripted, remember, a script with no author, but the whole universe, still needed something to read the lines. That something is you, not free from the chain, but the precise point where the chain becomes a person instead of just physics. Spinoza's flying stone never got to know it was thrown. You do. That single difference is smaller than free will and stranger than fate. Knowing the dominoes are falling doesn't stop the fall, but it changes what it means to be the one they're falling through. The Stoics never promised you could stop the chain, only that you could meet it awake instead of asleep. So, was any of it ever your choice, in the old cosmic sense? No, not the coffee, not the fear, not even the doubt you feel reading this. But the specific way you're sitting with that answer right now, reasoning, resisting, half convinced, That reaction belongs to no chain but yours. Here's the turn. Determinism was never the opposite of meaning. It was the reason your particular meaning could never have belonged to anyone else. The dominoes were always going to fall. You were always going to be the exact place in the whole universe where this one landed and looked back.